Hello and welcome back to the BWN podcast. Today is episode 11 and we have a pretty specific topic today. A lot of these have been pretty broad up till now, but some of them as well have been kind of more into the fire, if you will, of sort of different elements of media, because we're kind of keeping sort of a track running here where we sometimes talk about general things in terms of life, but also go more into media territory, because that's kind of what this is. It's sort of a life media hybrid sort of podcast to talk about certain different topics. Today, my guest can talk about the specific areas of audio platforms we're going to be discussing today, and sort of the meaning of them without visuals, essentially. What does it mean for media when there's no visuals involved? So, yep, he's very much qualified in this area, I would say. He's been in it for quite some time and working on different projects, ones that I've even been a part of, and I'll briefly talk about those that are on my socials. But without further ado, today my guest, Jaron Shan. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, I'm alright. How are you feeling?
Relieved because we got some projects done previously, so we're just kind of moving it before the spring break. Yeah.
Yep. Is this kind of in the similar domain of what it is we're going to be talking about today, I imagine, yes?
Well, it's always good to know that when you're experienced about something, there's always more growth to it. Because things like this keeps evolving and there's new ideas, and especially AI, which I have tons of opinions about. Yeah, it's always good to pick up more, even if what I am is still learning curve.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% that qualified degree person, but I do have lots of experience since then. So
yeah,
it's good to talk about that.
Maybe that's a way into this, actually, because we're going to be talking about sort of podcasting and audio-based platforms, sort of audio dramas, that sort of thing. We'll be talking about that today. But what you said about AI, because we're now heading into the sort of last phase of this first season of the podcast coming back, and this is now in total, if I do my maths right, this is now currently the 26th episode of this podcast now sort of mainline run. So now looking back on our sort of first episode, which we did now 10 weeks ago with Nick Glean, maybe we kind of bring this up again, but in a very practical sense, with in sort of actually discussing projects in themselves and how it's applied to them. So you say you've got a lot of thoughts on it. What are they, and how would you sort of apply it to the work that you do, if you do, that is?
When AI was introduced into the world, especially where I come from was Malaysia, so sometimes we take about a while to adapt to these new systems. Like, we recently have Apple Pay, which I've been using it constantly. When I remember going to a restaurant and say, I'm going to use Apple Pay, and they're like, oh, okay. And that other staff member was like, wow, someone's getting updated. I was like, yeah, it's convenient, it's there. So when it comes to AI, everyone used it as like, oh, just finding answers. I thought it was just another alternative of Google searching, really.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's giving you information that you searched for. Google has been doing that for years. I don't see what difference does it make, until I've been hearing people using it for their academics, which I have my moral constituents to just say I am not using AI for getting an easy way out to do my academic assignments.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's dishonest. But people were doing it, and they said, hey, why don't you try it? Let's try it. I was like, nope, no. I have my standards here. Yeah. Okay, but it's dwindled away now. So I looked at it as, okay, so it's not really exactly like Google's engine. It has more details of what they're going to explain to you. And then until I found out that AI can also produce images out of nowhere that no source is found, I was like, that's impossible, really, because I'm sure it's just basically piecing random images from Google's engine of whatever was uploaded for the past year. If you ask a cat, it can be any cat. And it's probably from someone that did take a picture, and what AI does is just combine them together and make it look like a different one. Depends, especially if the creepy Disney Pixar posters. It's just messed up. So until then, when I have group projects and assignments, and especially essays, like how can you go wrong with essays, right?
Yeah.
I do a check on turn it in, and that person who's in charge of that topic, 90% was AI generated. And I was like, are you for real? You could at least try to rephrase it like most of us do. We're not that stupid to just copy and paste and let's just assume our work is done. No way. So until then, I didn't start using AI as I constantly tried to make myself not to until coming here, because I guess now when it comes to theoretical questions, it is quite crucial. So looking back and understanding AI's influence and impact and introduction to all these industries, including audio, what we're going to discuss,
Yeah.
it's like my dad told me, it's a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like a gun. Use it to defend yourself. America. And that's fine. I have a friend who's from Iowa. So, yeah, it's a two-edged sword. You can make it or break it.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it for the right purpose when it's needed, and it's not taking, most importantly, what my dad told me, it doesn't remove the creative discipline of a human being.
Yeah.
A human being still has a God-given gift to create something new and original. AI is, in people's imagination to this day, going to be the next Terminator or whatever they call it. And I say it is still a human-made system.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way it's just AI just existed, so that's it. No, there's people under the wraps putting all the information into this engine to make it advance as we see it. We don't see what's behind the scenes. That's how it's made. I've actually watched a documentary about it that, people from Ghana or something, from a developing country, that ChatGPT hired to do all these little things to make it advanced. And I realized, yeah, what do you expect? It's a man-made thing. You can't, an intelligent invention, AI or whatever, doesn't coexist by itself.
Yeah.
So AI is, I remember it actually in regards to audio, where we're discussing Richard Berry's class, where we're going to discuss about the documentary I did, showed us how AI can be used to create literally out of nothing with the words you're going to write or the topic you're discussing, a whole podcast that sounds human. And we heard it. He just typed in, talk about something, something. And then he plays it like a good 20-minute one. And it's literally all AI generated. And it's so creepy. All of us were creeped out. It sounds like natural because there's two people inside of it that the AI system to make podcasts produced. Literally. And it sounds unnatural. That's where you know it's probably AI generated. Yeah. Just like videos. I think that's the weakness of AI. Videos that are AI generated, you can tell. I know, for me, when it comes to AI, when I know it's AI'd, I'm going to use that terminology, AI'd, it looks too perfect. It looks too smooth. Yeah. It's too sharp, right? Like Disney Pixar posters. Like, you expect some, humane feel about it. Yeah. But it's not there. That's when you know this has got to be AI generated. And that's what the weakness of AI there is. And I hope it doesn't get too advanced, because that will take away people's creative disciplines away. Yeah. It's just not, that's where you have to draw the line with technological advancements. I'm fine with iPhones coming up time and time again, but not when it takes away someone's creative disciplines. Mm-hmm. That's my view.
I would certainly say I use it as sort of creative prompts. That's for sure. In the sense of like, we've just been, again, I was saying with Ben last week, we've I don't know if I mentioned on the episode, but I did during the day with them, that we're working on stories and things at the minute, and we just need a bit of help with potentially sort of elements or character archetypes. What are examples of these types of character archetypes? It's more sort of puts it in focus. What you were saying is like a sort of a cleverer edition of Google. That's the kind of thing we use it for. We use it in the sense of structured notes to kind of bring awareness to the jigsaw pieces that we have on the table. So essentially we can then creatively put the puzzle together. So we basically see all the chess pieces at play.
And that's fine.
That's
fine.
It's very much,
that's a good purpose.
At least how we use it.
Yeah, that's practical, no-brainer type of needs. Mm-hmm. Not something that you just like, I want to create a movie. Yeah. That's where you draw the line with that kind of usage. Yeah. And even with essays that I've begun to find some pleasure using the AI system for, it began to help me understand better, because I guess Google only gives you websites. Yeah. But it doesn't jot down exactly the topic to answer your question. Mm-hmm. So in this case, AI does do the trick.
Yeah.
But that's another thing, because AI is still a developing system. It can give you the wrong answers.
Yeah.
That's what I realized. So sometimes you have to ask, sorry, that's wrong, AI. And they said, oh, sorry. Then they give you another wrong answer.
So, as a way in there, we're talking about like external environment right now with the world around the topic. So let's get right into it, and let's start with you. So in terms of audio work, whether that be podcasting or radio or audio dramas and that sort of thing, what you're here to study, to my understanding, where did that start? Tell us about the journey.
So I had a very mixed interests in my childhood. I was mostly interested in animation at the beginning. I used to watch like Pixar progression reels of Ratatouille and everything. Oh, Ratatouille's the best movie. It helped me become less of a picky eater. I'm not gonna lie. And so it was animation. It's embarrassing to say it, but I used PowerPoint to animate my stuff, and I think I lost it all from the hard drive. So that was my previous interest. And then, in my country, we have the official language, which is Malay. So of course, it's normal for every country to have their own language. And that also means dubbing over movies or content or subtitling them to translate for the local audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what grew that interest in me, because on TV, you can actually change the language of a program. So that's what I used. And I used it to learn my national language. That's a thing that we all need to do.
Yeah.
That's part of our MPUs, if you may. And that grew an interest in me about like, wow, isn't it interesting how they can dub over something? How does that process work?
Yeah.
Where did they get the original track for, to be able to remove the voice or remove certain elements to make a new version of it for a local audience?
Yeah.
So I began to like listen to a lot of like Disney Channel shows that were translated in my country's language a lot. Many people don't like to hear it because they already know how to speak English and everything like that, so they don't normally use it. Unless you go to rural areas, they do. So that's what garnered my interest with audio. That's when I began to try to extract these audio tracks from the television, because that's where most of the dubbings come from. They don't get released on DVD as often, strangely enough. So that's what I did. And then I began to upload them online, and that's the channel that has grown to 3,500 subscribers, which I don't use anymore because I lost interest about doing that kind of thing, extracting dubs. But the audio element didn't dwindle away.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I began to experiment with. Audacity. I know it's a great beginning, but boy, it has so many limitations, because what I was interested about was not just the recording. It's also about the multi-track parts.
Yeah.
I love multi-trackings. That's the fun part about doing that documentary I did. And it's always interesting how you combine audio of different types together, especially with music.
Mm-hmm.
And the voices, of course. So I have been using Sony Vegas before, and it's simple to use, but it crashes very often.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So I've been using that for audio work of my own types. Recording different things in the room or playing different music, and using my voice, which I disliked to this day. That's what I did. I experimented. And then I begged to get a Mac for the first time, a MacBook, the most expensive on the shelf, the one with the nice touch bar, and that's the last model that has it. So that's when I got to get to know Logic Pro X, one of my favorite softwares, because it didn't crash so easily.
Yeah.
That's what Macs are for. And then recent months using Adobe Audition, which is just as easy, but has some of the twinks that I just wish I had from Logic Pro X. But other than that, I'm happy I got those exposures to understand the art of audio platforms.
Yeah.
In terms of podcasting or whatever I've learned so far. Yes, that's my journey.
No, brilliant. I've found that Logic's incredibly quite special as well. Like I've just started working on it recently, and we with the music production season this year, we are very heavily using it, and it's we're finding that it's not just great for trying new things, but also just it's kind of opening my eyes to what's actually possible in the music space, and I'm very much like that software as well. So it's I'm happy that you mentioned that and that you brought it up, because we're transitioning over to that now in our music work, and it's it's great. So before we go into this topic completely, let's talk about two things which are very current that you may have been involved with. So the first of all, we'll throw it to you first of all for the a project which you did for university work, which I partaked in. I bring it up because if you would like to see sort of my extract, of which I was a part of this sort of project, which Jaron's going to talk about in a second, it's you'll find it on my personal Instagram. So the one that sort of represents the solo channel right now, but it is all still very much under the network. I've released an extract of it on my account there. So let's talk about it. Tell us about what went down with the passion. So that sort of extract that I put out there, and how that project came about, me getting involved and all that sort of thing, and briefly sort of discussing maybe sort of the inclusion of two new team members. Because I have said now publicly that there is a team on the way. Exactly who, we don't know, but they are the two involved who are very much a part of it. Let's talk about the passion.
This is the passion. That's how it began. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention a bit about my college experience with this thing.
Of course, go ahead.
So I'll combine it with that.
Go ahead.
So when I came to college, I did see interesting topics like using Adobe softwares. So that included Premiere Pro. But they didn't teach us how to use Adobe Audition. So there were two classes. Well, one class, excuse me. And basically one project assignment was a solo one, which you have to find somebody to podcast with. Mm-hmm. So that's where the podcast trend for me began. So back then they tried this assignment and people just brought their friends and did it, and they thought, it's not very professionally done. So they wanted us to find people from an industry to talk in a podcast. So I was like, wow, that's a big one. So luckily my sister used to work for a social media company in Malaysia. So she knows a social influencer there. So I was like, great, can I have her contact? And it worked out. And I interviewed her, and everybody, when she came into the campus, everyone was like, "Oh, I know her. I've seen the videos." And I was like, "Wow, I picked the right person to do it." I kind of pride myself. Thank you, sis. Thank you, sister. So that's how it began, and I thought that was an interesting thing about podcasting. And what I did is that I bought on Amazon. Well, we have a different Amazon. Bought 2 condenser microphones, USB types. At first, it was one that I wanted to use myself, but then when I heard this interview was happening, my mom was like, "No, it's okay. You can go buy 2." So I got 2, and it worked great. Just like this setup we're doing here is exactly like this, but with my own equipment and my own laptop, and that's it. And the studio room that we had in college, and that was like, wow, I actually did something with my own equipment, because some people would just use their phones or go to another studio or do a web Zoom call. But wow, that was a journey I used to. And then I did do a radio drama before. And that one was interesting because, well, one, I didn't write the script.
Yeah.
But so it was a group project, this one. So I was excited to get into it because I've been seeing all the behind the scenes of animated movies where they do voice acting of celebrities. So I was like, I think I know how to direct them. So I directed the voice actors within our team that we had. And based on the script that my friend wrote, it was a interesting story, I guess. It was about an alien invasion. So I followed what the behind the scenes they did to voice act direct. So I directed them by having one person at a time do their lines and then have a next person come in and then do the other lines and then just piece them together. That was the fun part. And then the best part was also making them say the same line in a different delivery. So you say, Matthew. He says, Matthew. No, that's how you choose. You have different choices. So Yeah, that's the experiences I had. So, sorry, could we get back to the question again?
No, it's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
It's okay. It's all right.
That's
You're
a mouthful.
The irony is you're passionate. That's the irony.
So what's the main question?
It's no. I just want to cover the passion and the whole process of making that and that. So to give a bit of context to the project that I just put out there.
Right. So from those experiences I had in college, coming here and having that kind of at first this class narrative documentary podcast, 3 terminologies put into one, because a narrative podcast is very specific. I didn't join it at first. I joined a different class. But since I was the first time being here, and I had one fellow Malaysian, her name's Tiffany, and she's a great rapper. She doesn't like to brag about it, but she thought, hey, maybe you should try joining this class. And so I was like, well, since I know you and I know some other person, might as well. I joined it for the second week, I believe. It was a very long class, 9 until 1. I was like, wow, that's a long class for podcasting classes. So then that's when the group project introduced that you have to do your own narrative documentary podcast. So I'll tell you one thing, Matthew. I'm good at doing something practical. I'm good at managing things in terms of like, okay, this is the strategy we need to have. This is the task that needs to be finished. What do we do if there's a problem? Those things. But I'm not a creative person. So when we were trying to brainstorm, and this was development hell, passions was like a broad terminology to use for a topic of a podcast. So my friends were like, okay, we'll take whatever idea you have in mind. And I was like, to be honest, I'm just doing it because we need a topic. I'm like gritting my teeth. We need a topic. So passions it is. Because that term passions topic was going to be used for another project, which is still happening, but that changed. So yeah, I did not have a script. I don't like relying on scripts before you do anything. I really don't. I know it's unorthodox. I know it's professional way of doing things, but I just like to step in, get the mic, get the person that we have to interview, and get it done, and we'll see what we can do from there. Then the script happens. That's how I did it. It's unorthodox, I know, but it worked for me. So passions was questioned by a lot of people, like, isn't that a broad terminology to use? And I'm like, I know, but think of it. When I met Jacob, because we met since the first week, that was when I met you.
Yeah. And
that was when I was like, wow, that's a passionate guy. This Matthew May is. Steve Jobsy presentation there. So
this is what Jaron's referencing there is actually on the first day I met him was the day I was very, very stressed, trying to throw it together. It was and I actually referenced it in the caption of the Instagram post when the shoot day happened. It was an WebCon 2025. If I haven't said this on record, yeah, I have at the start of my solo channel at the start of the year. It was an awful shoot day. It was the 30th of October, and it was pants. Like it was a rough day for me to get through. And the fact I even got like a 20-minute cohesive, which I'm happy it wasn't an hour, to be honest. I'm happy it was like concise.
You were
20
dressed
minutes.
up all over.
But yeah, I'm very grateful we got down to a 20-minute, roughly concise presentation that even at the time, some of the information said on that day was not accurate, so I had to edit around it. So we got there in the end, but that is the day that I met Jaron on set, and that's where sort of our albeit brief but working relationship kind of stemmed from there, and how I got involved in this. So yeah. sorry to cut you off. I just
no, please, that's fine. That's good, because I mean we may not work together as often now because we have our own schedules, but we're still open to help each other nonetheless, and that's the best part. So I thought passion, I think that fits it. I mean, the topic passion happened before I met you anyway.
Yeah.
But when I met you, I was like, that proves that this can work, because I know somebody who's passionate and he's right here, and I've helped him one time, and it's good to build student working relationships to, networking. Yeah. Yeah. So, and also gain intimacy with them too, which you were quite intimate with what you said in the podcast. We'll mention later, because yeah, so that was when I was like, okay, I know one person already, and that's when I contacted you, and you accepted it. Thank you again.
No, it's fine.
And then I was like, okay, you guys, I need you to just find someone. Okay, that's something you can do. Find someone that you know that has a passion that would like to share. So they tried. Oh, this person was a teacher, but she's not available for some reason, which is fine. Everybody has a schedule. So then one of my teammates, who's from Ireland, who's probably back home for the holiday time, he had a roommate that had a passion in not sorry ADHD advocacy. So I thought we can use that too. That's a good deep topic I can use us to use. So yeah, and that was when we had to pitch it. We didn't pitch it because we had a choice to send a document over anyway, so we did that. So like I said, I don't like to go by the script and then getting on of it. I just like to do it, then I'll write it down.
Yeah.
That's what I did for the pitch as well. I say whatever is in my head. I have it running through it. So yeah, and so we just schedule, and we did it in the industries week. But then we had conflict of the other projects that also need prioritizing at the same time. So my goodness, semester 1 was stressful.
I think for everyone, for some reason, last semester was rough.
Everyone had lots of production things to do compared to this semester. So that was, that was how we tightened the belt ourselves to have Matthew on, and someone who is advocating for, I can't mention his name because he doesn't want to be mentioned.
Of course.
But yeah, it turned out pretty well. And I did try to have Nitya on as well. But I just thought with all the content that I have, and we can only have 25 minutes maximum, I think it should be okay.
My bit was too good, you see.
It's yours. Matthew was very intimate with the interview. Like, I could see it right in his eyes. Like, I'm dead serious. I'm that passionate about this BWN thing. You know, really, that's what a documentary podcast narrative should be. Now that I've understood it and got to grade it, so yeah, that was how it happened.
Wonderful. Yeah, and if you would like to see my extract of that particular, whichever was that like half of it, I think it was. Yeah,
just your section.
The first half,
just your section. Yeah.
So the opening half of it is an extract. You can find that on my socials. It was thank you for letting me share it, and it was honestly it was a good opportunity. So you go and check that out if you want to listen to that. The other thing, which I would say that I should have said WebCon really, but yeah, we met at WebCon. When we shot that first of a series, hopefully, of now sort of the big news features of stuff I'll be putting out on the network. We then did the Passion on your home turf, and then they probably, even though it was only one day, then by a mile the biggest production that both of us have worked on, without giving too much away, just more so sort of from your experience on set. What can you say about Game Central? Because you, from a technical side of things, you helped on set for at least the first day. So for context, that will be for episodes 1 and 2, when that season kicks itself up again in this season really when it gets started. So if you'd like to give some kind of element of your experience on that set, feel free to go ahead.
Ever since getting here in the UK, I knew that I just wanted to make as many connections as I can, no matter, how small someone's organization may be. Because who knows, one day you might work with them when it grows up. That's how Steve Jobs did it. I know I reference him a lot.
Is your icon, is it?
God bless him. He's dead. But, yeah. So, he's dead with a, unfortunately, not very functional family, unfortunately. So, yeah. He's still better than his copywriter who divorced anyway, and tried to do a bubble tea ad. Cringe. And you should know who I'm talking about. Seriously, that guy is insane. So, so I wanted to take that chance to also give back to Matthew what he helped me to do my documentary. So I like to give back and forth. Mm-hmm. It's a trade-off. Because, I just want to make better connections. Mm-hmm. And so when I heard the Game Central thing come up, I was like, I want to give back and get to know his team better.
Yep.
even though it was just for one day.
Yeah.
Because at first, even though it was a Christmas season, the 3 weeks, I was going to take the whole 3 days. But I thought I did have plans to see Jacob at that time.
Yeah.
But then I have all of these projects, and I'll mention it later if you want to know. A game show I had to produce from scratch. And that was just as stressful. But thankfully, the lecturer was Miss Sue Perryman.
Yeah.
She was very nice. So, yes, with knowledge of that, of a game show, I thought, okay, you're doing something like that. So that's why when I asked on the day, I was like constantly asking, okay, where are the contestants? Where are the contestants? Because I thought it was going to be like a traditional game show.
Game show a bit literally, quite literally a game show.
with Wii sets and everything. But for us, it was like not something to do with video games. It's just more like minute to win it type of game.
Mm-hmm.
So with knowledge by that, I stepped into the day. I was like, and I was like tired because I didn't shower. But I was like, I can't disappoint anybody. I don't want to. So I came there on the dot as quickly as I could. Didn't want to be late. It's always good to be punctual, no matter how small a project may be. You want to make a good impression. So I got there. That's when I met Ella.
Mm-hmm.
Very sweet one. She's quite good at what she did there.
Brilliant. She's very,
really
very
good.
hardworking. And for context, because again, these things I haven't said, but again, this is a crew thing. It doesn't matter.
Is it the first time you have worked with her? That's the first day she's worked there, right?
Yes, I do. That would have been actually, obviously didn't have meetings beforehand, but that would have been our first day on set for the network. Ella is featured in The Passion, which is why I'll say her name out loud.
Ella Jackson,
who is also going to be our director on season 1 of Game Central. So that's for all 10 episodes. She did an absolutely sterling job. So, yeah.
And that's when I met the new people, including Ella and Andrew, which I keep in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we got in, I was like, first of all, I'm going to be honest with you, Matthew. You have every geek stream. All the merchandise, all the Wii sets that could have been outdated, but you kept them right there. And especially being excited about the fact that you can screen capture everything. Yes, I had that same thing too. The dongle and that, yeah. So I was like, wow, that's a lot of things you brought in to make this set happen. So then that was when, yes, Andrew came in the door in the control room. Because I was doing the volume mixing, and I was confused about that terminology because I thought this was audio mixing. Because my understanding is that if you're talking about the big screen, just say big screen. But okay, never mind. I learned what that means now. And he was there. And he was like, I was just greeting myself. And I understood that first years, I don't know if they have a class that uses a TV studio, including the control room.
They do now. So if anything, this trained them up for it, like slightly.
Well, at least they have 3 years. I only have like 1 semester to learn everything.
Yeah.
And this is like my final year, top up year, so I'll be gone, literally. So I wouldn't be able to touch it anymore, sadly. And if you didn't know, this whole control room was just upgraded. It wasn't there before when I came in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, that's a good thing. So since I did learn from Miss Sue's class about how to use it, that's when I familiarized the 2 new members, Ella and Andrew, how to use the switching of the cameras on the screen, which one is actually being recorded, which one is just there for preview. And yeah, just basic little things every student should know. Not those super advanced parts like projecting something on the screen, which is, I hate to say it, but I feel like it would be much easier if there was one USB port there that we can just plug in all our stuff that we want to just, show on the big screen and not have asking the staff, which God bless the staff, by the way, to go behind the other side of the room to where all the systems are running to get these things working, to transfer those files. I feel like that's a bit of a hassle. There should be the computer that can do that you can just plug in your USB there and just put it there and drag it there like that. So yeah, so I taught Andrew how to do the screen switching when it's being recorded by rest assured them that don't worry. Every single individual camera has been recorded and they'll be still there. So even whatever changes you've made, it won't affect the final copy, which is supposed to be that way. And I tell you this, when I was in college, we did something exactly like that, except it wasn't about a game show. It was about an interview.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Ellen DeGeneres type of interview. So that one was a hot mess. And we only had the whole footage that was based on the camera angles they chose.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have original footage of the individual cameras at all. And we had to do a green screen, which they did not properly place, to put it, even though the scene is changing half the time. It's ridiculous. That one was a huge mess. I don't want to go back there. And I was the editor for the whole thing. So my mental health was like, and God bless my teachers, they gave me a lot of extensions to make up for that. So learning from that experience and this experience back again with different cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what I taught Andrew. And the audio systems are easy to operate in one sense because we did use the microphones at the game show that we did because they were using the whole TV studio room. So understanding how the transmitters work and knowing who you need to hook up on, yeah, that's quite what I taught both of them in case I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that was just the basic parts that they need to know. And the computer that is going to record everything.
Yeah.
And that computer doesn't look like it can handle any longer because it's quite slow in how it's going to, especially the understanding that the bars, the green bars where the volume is being played on that recording software, recording 4 different angles of the cameras. That's the most crucial part. It's fine if you want to change the camera scenes and sometimes you get it wrong, but it's fine. It's all recorded. And it's fine if the audio can be adjusted and everything, but make sure it's recording. Because if it's not, that's a lot worse. That's something you cannot change. Mm-hmm. That's something that you might not be able to redo again. Yeah. And the whole day will be wasted because nobody pressed the dang record button on the computer. And you're never so sure if it actually does record because it just sometimes lags that computer. So yeah, it was still a less chaotic experience compared to what I did with my game show, my own game show. That was a actual project for for my module. Yeah. So yours was a lot chill, to be honest.
What would you, from the content that you understand, at least having seen episode 1 and 2, being actually done in production, what would you say is kind of your assessment of the show that people are about to see in sort of the months to come? What do you think people are in for with this?
Well, you're about to see something not conventional, something that's a little more freelancing type of game commentary setup. It doesn't have as much talking like some people do. It's not PewDiePie type of method. It's more like laid back. It's still fun. It's full of different people that Matthew has been friends with for a long time. And they come from different backgrounds, especially if it was specified. And other than that, it has all the childhood games you'll ever remember from your old Wii consoles. I kind of prefer the old Wii consoles than the new ones. And it sucks that the Nintendo Switch can't have compatibility for the old games. It's like, so then, yeah, lots of gaming consoles that of your childhood that are played back again. Because you know what? Life can be stressed, but there's nothing wrong with a bit of entertainment, especially with people around you.
No need to release a trailer. That was the marketing right there. You've just completely sold the show. No, it was great fun. It was great fun. So, before we do some quick fire questions on the board here,
sure.
I think we really attack judging everything that we've done together, but also your whole history in this sort of these different mediums of audio-based content. Let's really tackle this as sort of our main topic of today.
Sure.
How is what we're doing with audio meaningful when there is no visuals? What specifically is it about this area of media that is unique and why does it almost warrant itself? I'm not taking any negative stance on this whatsoever. It's like I want to understand from someone who's really in the heart of it, given everything you've said, why this? Why not have the camera? Why this specifically? And trying to understand that.
Well, to understand theoretically, and I don't normally use that terminology theoretically because, well, thank you, Miss Barbara Sattler. You made me use that terminology because that's your essay. She's very nice. So, yes, why on earth would you not want to see something and instead just hear half the time? It depends on the person that wants to listen to something alone. And the thing about audio that's interesting is it's just like people who don't have pictures in the books. So when you read something that doesn't have any pictures, especially my favorite, that's what got me to reading, was Alex Rider. Anthony Horowitz, Alex Rider series. That's what got me to reading. And I'm stuck at Crocodile Tears because there's like 12 books. So it's kind of like that. So audio, like with books reading about pictures, it's using your imagination to visualize things. So no exception to audio, in my opinion. So audio, you're just hearing sounds, sound effects, and especially music. Music plays a very crucial role, depending on what it's about, to carry on something. And that way you want to, like every entertainment medium, especially if it's fictional or documentative, you want to bring that person's mind into something different in where he or she is. Like, so with audio, it's not seeing something in front of you, but what your mind sees inside when it hears whatever is being put out these speakers. So when it comes to what type of genre you're discussing, especially music, songs. So when you hear things like Elvis Presley music, what goes into your mind? Elvis dancing, obviously, and doing his dance and his looks and everything, because people know who he is. But let's say somebody who is blind, especially that, they can somehow picture something in their mind, because even though they can't see, they have no sight, they can still imagine something in their head. And that's the beauty about God's creation. So the thing about with audio is that some people don't like podcasts, for example, because they can't see the person. They just like to see something. But some don't mind not seeing something because they just want to be able to do certain things around what they're doing, different tasks. And that's the advantage of audio. So sometimes you can't watch the movie because it's visual most of the time. And you can only hear the audio, unless you watch the movie multiple times and you're just binge watching it. But when it comes to audio, if you put it into an audio drama, converting a movie, imagine converting a Mission Impossible movie to an audio drama. And that's possible. But I think when people don't like about audio dramas is that sometimes it's like Jay told me that, he prefers not having some narrator describing every move of some character, what they're doing in that audio drama. And I can understand that because it kind of ruins the momentum, the seriousness sometimes, or the comedic timing. Did you know somebody that when I was in college did their own radio drama, but it was going to be a comedy one? And guess what concept they chose? Modern Family. And I was like, okay, and when I talked to that guy, he was like, yeah, it didn't turn out very well. And that's the thing. Without visuals, you can't really see, especially, people mistaken changing something to an audio platform is just extracting the audio and just pasting it and calling it putting it in an audio platform. No. You need to add certain extra elements to it. You need to cut certain segments where there's no talking. or certain sound effects are not being played, because people were like, okay, what's happening in this scene, right? So that's what makes audio platforms sophisticated in their own characteristics, because you have to think deeper how to make something audible by itself. You need to bring someone's head imagination to another different world, including when they're reading a book. When they say, I'm in the dark room or I'm in a coliseum, you need to make it believable that's what's happening to make them be able to imagine it. And that's how it needs to be worked with audio as well. You know, if someone is in a how would you do a audio drama that someone's trying to escape a room, like an escape room concept? That's hard to put into audio form. And that's why imagination plays in very crucially into that, to bring those elements, rearrange them compared to a visual. So yeah, in a nutshell, audio by itself, in terms of like what platforms we have now, radio dramas, audiobooks, music, etc., documentaries, is just like books with no pictures in them. It's your imagination that counts while you hear it.
Interesting. That's a lovely way of putting it. It's almost the additional challenge that makes it
Absolutely.
That makes it its own art form. You've got to do the work essentially to really to imagine it. But the better the product is, the less work you have to do, because it's kind of been fully realized in that way.
Absolutely.
Lovely.
Again, it's imagination. It's dependent on someone's imagination to make that reality in themselves. And it's also based on the writer who is going to construct the script of how it's going to sound. So people tend to forget, when you write a script for something, for a podcast or a radio drama, it's not the same as visual. So you don't just say, oh, we don't need to change the script because there's going to be sound, but that's for visual sake. When it comes to audio, you need to make sure things are kind of moving in faster a bit, because nobody's seeing anything. So yeah, that's another thing.
Brilliant. Right then. Okay. We're now going to move into some quick fire questions. So as fast as you can.
Sure.
We're going to I'm going to pick out a few of these, and we'll
Sure.
see what you have to say about them.
Sure.
Before we move on to our weekly game. Okay. First up, what's the most exciting part of working in audio, and what's the most challenging?
The exciting part is the music that you're going to choose. Like when I did the documentary, I knew that it needs to have an impact when somebody listens to it. And I know it may do based on how I feel like it's impactful. So music is the fun part, because you get to construct your story better. You know, I don't want it to just be a podcast, with an intro music and that's it. No, now that I've understood what the terminology of documentary narrative is, which is kind of like creating a story. That's the fun part. But music is what really makes me invested in this type of thing with audio. So the challenging part, of course, like I've said before, it's about how do you imagine it? How do you imagine somebody who's being tied up in a rope and kidnapped? That's very difficult. So it's about using your imagination when it comes to describing things that you are used to seeing visually, but now you have to try to convert it into audible form alone without using narrative descriptions of what's happening. Yeah.
Great. What are common misconceptions people have about working on audio platforms? Do you have any?
Likewise, I said that it's not about converting from a video and just extracting its audio and then poof, it's an audio by itself. There's no need for little changes of making it suitable for people who are just listening it and not watching it. That's what I believe is one misconception in what I think is existing. Another thing is it's boring, which is fine in individual opinion. I used to think it was boring too. I used to think, what's the point of listening to podcasts? Just talking all day long. Who cares? But it's dependent on the topic you like to listen, of course, in the end of the day. And what other misconceptions? Well, it's not, I know it's a probably cliche thing to say, but it's not something that's expensive to do. It is expensive to do with professional microphones like these ones we're using right now. Yes, indeed. But nowadays on Amazon, you can find tons of competitive companies that have produced domestic use of these equipment. I mean, come on. Everyone can produce a podcast these days.
Yeah.
Everyone. Sometimes for the wrong reasons of what they're talking about. I don't know what they talk about these days. So, yeah, other than that, yeah, it's not something expensive to do anymore. You don't need to be 100% intellectual. I think that's important to discuss. Yes, it is important to be intellectually on par when it comes to producing something audible, just like writing a book with lots of text and words and terminologies. It is difficult, but like people are used to hearing people on podcasts that sound intellectually there, but actually it depends on the genre. If Andrew Tate can do it, even though he's full of crap, then so can you.
Last one, I would say then, really you can kind of harp on for as long as you want about this last one because it's a very important one.
Sure.
What advice would you give to podcasters trying to grow their audience and also in audio as a whole? What's sort of your big piece of advice? Because, of course, we're trying to grow this podcast slowly but steadily for people with new starters and people, trying to get things off the ground. What advice would you give them?
Likewise, for me, I don't have a master's or any qualification to officiate that I am 100% experienced with podcasting because I'm sure there's lots of other elements to learn, but I don't think it's much to learn in terms of technicalities. Now that just record a button and have your little setup and everything, yeah, you're done. So advise, always find a topic that you like to talk about. You're not going to get the attention you want overnight, but keep trying despite the results of the first ones not getting that success you want. It depends on your topic. Once again, not all topics are what people like to hear. Topics can be controversial, and I hate to believe this, but yeah, whatever medium you do, something controversial is going to get your traction of people, which is kind of messed up, to be honest, because I don't want to know about somebody's celebrity sleeping with some other celebrity. No, thank you. That's the thing. Gossiping and all that. So topic could be something that you're passionate about, but always know that if you want that traction of audiences, you try to put it on social media, which is crucial. Like TikTok is everywhere. TikTok's a ridiculous platform, but it is full of possibilities to get some traction there. And always know how to build the brand identity of your podcast. I've already gone through tons of marketing classes, so yeah, I guess it's kind of like how it is. Yeah. Because it has to present a unique personality of your podcast. Like for yours, it's, a casual talk, really, about any topic that comes up with you as the interviewer. So it's based on your personality to, bring it in. Yeah. To get that identity across that this platform was made by one person, or this platform represents a group of people that are passionate about doing this together. It's a typical college growth of a project, university growth of a project. So, and it's hard to compete, especially if your brand of your podcast is like similar to a lot of other podcasts. If you're talking about politics, sure, I've got tons of other other channels that do the same thing, but it depends on how you come across yourself. Like, if you want a spicy personality, then maybe it works. If you're more conservative in your way, yeah, sure, you'll find it, but it depends on your topic and your subtopics. It's like, if you're talking about autism, right? I think that's a great topic to discuss to this day. But how much deeper can you get into it that nobody has discussed about?
Yeah.
Is autism something that, like, I'm just saying, sometimes people think if you're autistic, you'll be given an excuse for just about everything. But what happens if you have to draw the line where actually you can't be excused for everything just because you have a disability or any other mental health issue? That's a good topic to discuss. I'm sure some people who are in the spectrum would like to express that, yeah, it's not good that people who are in the spectrum who are misusing the system that's helping them to get across, but they're abusing it. That's a good topic to discuss. Just like many YouTube videos have popped up recently. Like, maybe we should just stop treating, I know I'm getting a lot of hate for this, but maybe we should stop treating Taylor Swift as the best artist there is. So it's all that. And like, it comes back to the same issue of stirring up controversial topics in your mediums, especially with podcasts. So sometimes you might want to experiment, if I advise you, with controversial topics. Like for my documentary, just to spoil a little bit, I want to talk about the church abuse scandals. Because I thought, yeah, I've always had this question, and I know a lot of people have had distrust for Christians because of that. And it stings me because that's not how it should be. Not about the victims, but we should say something that, yeah, this is not the correct behavior of what those churches did, and we don't stand by with them. Mm-hmm. That's a thing to experiment with in a podcast with regards to a controversial topic. So, yeah, it depends on what you really, 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 really want to talk about in a podcast. It can be casual, and if you're okay that you don't get enough traction at all, and you like to just do this as a hobby and not get the attention you want, maybe we'll get just like 100 people in a year, then fine, do it. Because you just like it. You're not here for the attention. You're just here because you like to do it. You like speaking into the mic in general, but you don't constantly want to have everyone to be forced to find interest to hear it. And that's fine. Just like people produce their own short little films and maybe it doesn't get any traction, but you like to do it anyway. Yeah. So yeah, it depends. It really depends on what you really want to do. What's the goal of getting this podcast out there that you want to produce? Do you want the fame? Fine. Then you're going to have to go through some obstacle of getting the algorithm to be attracted to you. Yeah. And the topic that might be steamy to talk about that might get it out there. Yeah, that's my advice.
Fantastic, Jaron. Thank you. Right, here we go. Time for our final part of every week. It's time for the game. Here we go. Would you rather? Audio industry. You ready?
Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay, so how to play. Yep. Take turns asking questions, that sort of thing. So if you don't mind reading for the audience what's on screen. So I'll start. Here we go. Would you rather work exclusively on a highly popular but creatively restrictive audio platform where you have tons of listeners but little control over content and monetization, or work on a niche independent platform with full creative freedom but struggle to grow an audience? Kind of sounds like what I'm doing now.
I was going to say. That's ironic. Yeah, it's... Jeez. Work exclusively. Oh. Okay. My strategy in life is this. You work for somebody who has all the creative control that you have little control of, but at least if something doesn't work out, that's their fault.
Okay.
Because they're the ones who are supposed to make a content look interesting, and I'm just there at the background just making sure it sounds nice and, is marketable.
Okay.
But if my creative person is the lead of the person in the company that has the traction he wants, but the topics can be a bit ridiculous to talk about sometimes, then I might slowly dwindle away and then work for a niche independent platform and have some creative freedom control to grow the audience. But I wouldn't start with the niche. It depends what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, quick fire. Let's go. Your turn.
Have your podcast featured on the front page of a major platform but never make any money from it. Or have a small dedicated audience that pays for premium content.
Coverage. Any day of the week. What I'm doing, it's more important to me that people see it rather than I make a dime. That's
the blue one, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's it's more important to me that people see it.
But what happens if they do give you a lot of money for it? That happens to gain a lot of traction.
What do you mean? As in, I get a lot of money off gaining a load of traction from it.
But to be honest, people would get money from major platforms being featured in the front pages, would they?
Yeah, I'd imagine. But like that's what I'm saying. If someone would say you would have a small audience of like, let's say a few thousand, and you'd constantly have be on a premium price point the whole time, or you'd have millions and you'd never earn a dime from it in your life, I'd go millions.
All right.
Without a doubt. That's definitely where I'd go. Right, okay, up next. Would you rather have a job curating and recommending podcasts for a top platform, or be an independent podcast producer with no guarantees of success? Right, okay. These red answers are hitting very close to home.
Really?
Okay.
So you got someone to support you. Have a job creating, recommending podcasts for a top platform, or be an independent producer. Oh boy, this is a trick question.
Come on, if you had to pick.
Okay. You know what, Blue? I think it's better to have the coexisting content available for me to put it up there, because, like I said, I'm not a very good creative person, but I do like marketing the people's ideas.
Good.
Like if I'm going to sell BWN, let's say, I say, well, I'll tell you why this is good, because it's not this and that. It's the marketing that I like to do. So I would take that. Yeah.
Right. Well, what's up next?
Would you rather work on the back end of an audio platform, helping build the technology behind it, or be the public-facing voice of a platform doing interviews and marketing?
I need to do a sort of a kind of a self-examination as to why I'm picking B here, or the red one. But I would be the face of it rather than be behind the scenes. Why I need to be? I talked about this to Jay, actually, funny enough. Why I need to be still that on-screen face of it? Maybe it's down to the element of, like, maybe I feel I personally have to feel that I've done something. That's where I've personally been the symbol of something good.
It shows you how invested you are with it.
Yeah, that's mainly why. I think I just want to be for heavily associated with something that's trying to do good, not for the way other people look at me, but for how I can look back at my own life and know that I did good.
And just to make sure I understand clearly, it's different from how people do it in a narcissistic manner.
Yeah.
Making it all about me.
It is all about me, but it's how I view myself.
Yeah.
I don't do it so that other people can view me differently.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm at a stage of life now where I'm on a path that can't care. That it doesn't have the time to care about how other people see me. I can't do that. I can't afford to.
Just be organic about who you
I have to.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Right, up next. Would you rather have exclusive sponsorship from one big company that dictates some of your content, or rely solely on listener donations with complete creative freedom?
I think it'd be best to have some exclusive sponsorship, because I know a lot of growing companies have this pride of, I still want that control, just like Shark Tank show or Dragon's Den, where they say, okay, I'll take 50% of your control of the company. But then you're like, but I'm going to give you this big offer of money. And you're like, some people are like,
yeah, so not for you. Not for you.
But I would, because sometimes sometimes you do need to be bought over.
All right.
Sometimes you just need to learn from them, so that one day when you're off the contract with them, well, that's why there's contracts. then you'll learn from that experience, and maybe you'll eat somebody else's podcast companies.
That's an interesting way of looking at it for sure. Right, okay, up next.
Would you rather have your podcast automatically edited by AI with perfect sound quality but no personal touch, or manually edit every episode yourself, keeping full control but spending hours on post-production?
Have your podcast automatically edited by AI? I was about to say red. I'd actually make an argue for the first one, simply because I don't know what that means by no personal touch, because if what we're doing right now, I'll just say the edits for these podcasts are incredibly simplistic. The work is done in production. The edits for this, it is not a complicated post-production process at all. It's handed off between the producer and me. It's a very limited process. It is... I don't see how the personal touch would be removed by an edit and done by AI. I don't.
I think it's about, like I said, AI still is a developing engine. So there's sometimes it can't, over-perfect something that would then sound a little bit unnatural. Like cutting
I get
a few little gaps. But yeah, it's good for like convenience for simple little tasks. Yeah.
Right, up next. Okay, would you rather work for a massive audio platform with strict corporate policies, or a scrappy startup that's unpredictable but full of creative potential? Go.
Oh my gosh. I hate to sound like I'm not being motivated to do it myself, but because it's a very competitive site when it comes to audio platforms. And there's always going to be another person that's going to make it. If Will Smith can do another one, so can everybody else do a competitive type of platform to beat your growing one. So, but of course, it depends on what type of strict corporate policies there are. If they're saying you have to cut off certain things that are crucial to be discussed, like you can't talk about politics without being transparent, then I would follow it. I'd be the loser to follow it. I don't know if that makes me a loser to do that, but then that way I can still quit and say, well, guess what? This company made me cut all this stuff, so I know all the dirty details.
All right.
So blue.
Okay. Cool. Up next. Is that yours?
Would you rather host a podcast that gets millions of passive listeners but little engagement, or have a smaller audience that actively participates and gives feedback?
No! Oh, that's
Trick
a hard one for
question.
me. That's really hard. Would I rather what I'm doing right now get millions but just nothing? Just millions of views but nothing? Because... Oh no, that might be where I cave, and I might go for a smaller audience, because I think knowing that it's making a difference to people, that sort of validation that it is doing something good to people, that is actually more important to me than the amount of people.
I think it's also good to not take any criticism too personally either, too, and that's how you grow from there. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Is any left? Okay. Would you rather be a behind-the-scenes audio engineer ensuring top-tier sound quality for big shows, or be a podcast host with mediocre sound quality but an engaging personality? As a typical host yourself, how would you answer this?
Because, I think the thing that sucks about being an audio engineer is that if it goes wrong, it's all your fault. And even though I've taken leadership for things past years, it's still difficult to be that person that is going to hold a responsibility that's told by somebody else but get blamed by that person. I know that sounds bad, because I'd rather be that person to be on the top to say, well, you're supposed to do this and that's your fault. But yeah, I'd rather be a podcast host and with mediocre sound, because that can be fixed anyway.
Okay. This might be the last one, we're not sure, but
Sure.
yeah.
Would you rather launch your podcast on an established platform with built-in audiences but stiff competition, or start fresh on a new platform with little competition but fewer listeners?
Well, I mean, really, blue's kind of the launch on an established platform's kind of what I'm doing now. I think there's competition left, right, and centre when it comes to podcasts, but
Well, it's established, but It's just that it needs more traction.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
But-
sorry, I was thinking YouTube for some reason. Right, okay. But yeah,
That's reasonable.
That's the idea. Yeah, I was thinking YouTube. I didn't mean the network.
Hmm.
Right, okay. So would you rather get early access to cutting edge audio tech before anyone else, or have access to an exclusive network of industry professionals to help boost your career?
Red for sure, because you can always get access anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's online. Just watch a YouTube video and understand. You may not have the set with you because it's expensive, but at least you watched how it's done.
Yeah.
That's definitely, yeah.
Cool. Right then, any more? Yep, another one.
Would you rather have a podcast that is critically acclaimed but only a niche audience listens to, or a widely popular podcast that critiques, says, lacks originality?
Fuck the critics. Sorry, I'd rather the people liked it. To be honest, I'm honestly sick. I'm sick of it. That whole culture. So no, I'm not bothered what the critics say. And if it makes people happy, that's enough for me.
That's exactly how I, with my documentary coming up, and some people said, people were interested about this topic. I was like, I'll just do it. I'll try. If it doesn't work, I'll learn.
Yeah, of course. Right. Okay, would you rather be locked into an exclusive contract with a major platform for stability, or take the risk of being independent with the chance to make more money on your terms?
Oh my gosh, this is a bit deja vu, because we just talked about that in Jay's class, because it's about employability, and they were talking about full-time and freelancing and the pros and cons about it, and I was like, okay, because they asked us of our perspectives, and I guess my choice would be an exclusive contract, because it's not as easy to be a freelancer the way people think it might be.
Yeah.
Because you still need your capital, you still need to pay rent and taxes and things like that, depending on the city where you live, and depending on how this whatever you're practicing in your work that can make that profit. So yeah. Because I can always quit once the contract's over and then start myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, next one. Okay.
Would you rather create a one-hit wonder podcast that trends worldwide for a short time, or build a long-term slow-growing show with a loyal fan base?
Slow growing implies that it will eventually still get to that point, but it's more about the journey than destination. I'd say slow growing. I'd rather it be slow growing with a loyal fan base.
Yeah.
Far rather.
We're all still young, so we just want to keep learning.
Wonderful. Right. Any more? God, there's a lot on this one today. Right. Would you rather work on a podcast that is high budget and professionally produced but scripted, or a low budget, raw and unfiltered show with total authenticity?
Likewise, I've said before, you don't have to have the expensive equipment to make something great nowadays, with all the new brands that are coming up with competitive pricing to make something production look professional. So a low budget, because if I actually wait, that's a tricky question. High budget and professional.
I'm going to have
produced,
to push
but
you for an
scripted.
answer, Mr. Jaron.
Sure. Okay. A low budget, because you know what? Sometimes authenticity still works. Because sometimes scripted gets a bit too faked out.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. Okay, next.
Would you rather have access to every possible audio tool and software for free, or have an unlimited budget to hire the best audio engineers and producers to work for you?
I like people. I'd rather have people. Yeah.
That's good.
Cool. Next. Finn! We're done. Wonderful. Right, have you enjoyed today?
Yeah, I think it was very insightful.
Brilliant. Yeah, you've honestly been very articulate in the way you've described this topic, and it's been great having you on and sort of exploring this, because it's probably something that it's probably not something that we're going to really walk over again. So even if this is a one-off, this is definitely something that I need discussing. So no, thank you.
I was having an imagination that maybe a topic could be about how do you handle what is it like being a leader, and what is it like to handle projects with college and everything. I think that's a topic that might be interesting.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep it in mind. And speaking of which, in the comments below, if there's any topics you'd like us to discuss or guests that you know in the network culture who you would like to see come on, do let us know down below as per usual. But I hope everyone's doing all right at home. I forgot to say that at the start. But otherwise, that has been it for episode 11. Thank you, Jaron. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That has been it for the BWN podcast. We'll see you next week for episode 12. But until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.